and welcome to the Moffitt Method Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of strength and conditioning and pushing the limits of athletic performance with your host, Joe Ryan. Each week, we'll explore the strategies, tactics, and innovations that make athletes stronger, coaches smarter, and the sports we love even more thrilling. Whether you're a coach, an athlete, or just a fan of the game, we've got something for you. We'll be talking to some of the brightest minds in the industry, sharing their insights and experiences, and uncovering the methods behind the madness of high-performance sports. So tune in, turn up the volume, and let's get ready to learn, grow, and be inspired. This is the Moffitt Method Podcast.
Today's guest is the absolute definition of grit, resilience, and what it means to possess an unbreakable mindset. Hailing from Lafayette, Louisiana, she's the former LSU softball standout and 2012 team captain who translated her passion for the game into an elite career in strength and conditioning. After building an impressive resume at Liberty University, where she earned her master's degree in exercise science, and the University of Illinois, she returned home to Baton Rouge in 2022. She is currently in her third year and is assistant strength and conditioning coach for LSU's powerhouse beach, volleyball, and gymnastics programs. But her true test of strength didn't happen in the weight room. In July of 2025, a devastating jet ski accident led to an amputation of her left foot. While a tragedy like that would pause most people's lives, her response was nothing short of legendary. Driven by a practical, blunt attitude and elite physical fitness, she was discharged from the hospital on Saturday and was back at work the following Monday. Guided by her faith, her community, and a fierce sense of purpose, she has completely made peace with her new reality. Now she is stepping way outside of her comfort zone to use her platform for good, competing as a quarterfinalist in the Miss Health and Fitness competition to inspire others while officially locking her sights on training for the 2028 Paralympics. She is straightforward, she is unstoppable, and she is here to share what it truly means to overcome. Please welcome to the show, Coach Katie Guillory. Coach Guillory, welcome on into the Moffitt Method Podcast. How are you doing today?
A lot better now that I'm here with you, man.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
been a good day. It has.
It has. You know, y'all are right in the middle of y'all season, so it's hustle and bustle for you, huh?
It is, and this is a moment that, I can breathe in a day. Just got done with gymnastics. The first session with me of the day, and then, I go out and meet beach out in California. Dark and early in the morning, so you caught me at a 1 hour of my day I got free.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad we're able to figure this one out. You know, that you're someone that Coach Bruce and I have talked a lot about from a distance and noticed all the great things you're doing, not only with strength and conditioning, but with life. And, we couldn't wait to have you on to this podcast.
Well, I'm honored by that, truly.
Absolutely. We, us guys and gals in high school, y'all are the ones that all of us at one point aspired to be and wanted to be. And we get to live, I guess, vicariously through y'all, especially.
No, there's no job that's more important than the other. I think especially
Oh,
in the realm of coaching and mentoring and influencing kids at such a multiple age. So from what you just told me about the amount of athletes that roll through that place on a daily basis, man, I want to do the tiger salute. Where like dun 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 dun. Dun.
it's a lot.
Yeah,
And, I'm glad you say that because I think that is a somewhat of a misconception sometimes to, you get it because you're in this business, but
yeah.
the outside world, how many kids really go through a high school strength and conditioning program where, like you just said, at my school, it's about 600 kids every 2 days.
Yeah. And look, that's something I didn't have. I've been an undersized, weak kid. I don't want to say my whole life, but in high school for sure, because we didn't have it. Mind you, my family didn't have a ton of money, so I really didn't eat well. We had the cheaper meals, but on the other side of that, like weightlifting could have helped me out a ton. And I went to the gym a few times with my dad, and that was pretty much it. We had no formal athletic PE, weightlifting, nothing. And if we did, I didn't know about it, or it was like just for football,
Which is typical for most places, right? Especially, we're both from Louisiana.
Yeah.
We
Louisiana,
know,
baby.
yeah, we know how it is down here that, most places are underfunded and you scrape by and you got what you got. And the stigma on the outside of our state looking in is that, uneducated and things like that. But when you talk about strength and conditioning, Louisiana might be the mecca of strength and conditioning when it comes to the
Seriously.
history of it.
Yeah. Look, I just got chills, man. You look at the people, successful people that have come out of this state in our profession across all sectors. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's an episode all in itself, but it's ridiculous, and we're just now catching up as a state, I think, to get to the point that it is important in high school to get these athletes prepared for the next level. There's a few schools here and there in our state who have full-time strength coaches, but it's not everyone, but we're getting there.
Yeah. I agree.
So
There's a lot more contracted people too than there has been in the past. So I think that's another viable option of making sure that our field or strength and conditioning in the high school level is kind of taken a step further or a step more serious, even if they're not in a position like yourself at Denham Springs where you have all you have in terms of the support with equipment and space and facility usage and you being full time. I don't think every school has that, but I think they're trying to be creative in ways that they could take a step forward in the right direction with a low expense.
yeah, no, and it's getting there, like you said, and we're slowly learning. The rich history is slowly catching up, and we're learning to get there. Let's dive into this thing, Coach. Like I said,
Right.
we're real excited. We're ready to happen. We're ready to make it happen. And
Hit me.
let's hit it right here. We talk about your Instagram. Okay, you have a big following, and it's awesome. And I think that's some of our sport goes toward, or some of our profession is going towards that. You have to promote not really yourself, but what we're doing. How are we doing things? And what makes us different? I've talked about this before on previous episodes, but it all comes down to culture, I think. The meat and potatoes of things, most people are doing the same thing. You walk into your
Yes.
weight room, you walk into my weight room, we walk into a weight room in, Lafayette, Louisiana. A lot of it's going to look the same, but it comes down to the culture. But, still Gill, where does this come from? And what's really the meaning behind it?
Oh man. I've gotten asked this a lot and I love telling this story because the way that it unfolds, you can't make it up, man. You can't make it up. I'm not a huge Instagram person, if you believe that or not. For those listening who don't know, 8 months ago, I was in a tragic jet ski accident where I had the lower left half of my leg amputated. I am one of only two strength coaches in college across all divisions that are, and it's only one other guy, and he's a Houston Christian University in Houston. Very awesome dude. But it's uncharted waters. So the reason I think I have such a bigger Instagram presence than I have had a year ago is because of the accident. I think so many people have been so gracious to support me emotionally, financially, of just like pouring any help and support they can into helping me recover from this injury and living life as an amputee for the rest of my life. Having a true disability and a handicap has been life changing in so many ways. So the reason my Instagram has been, I think, a lot more heavy and active is because it was a way that people had requested to stay in touch with me in terms of my progress. I'm not a huge person that likes to gloat and show what I do. On very special occasions I have in the past. But right now I'm trying to mix in a little bit of highlighting what we do in our programming, but also to keep people updated, on what's going on with me. So the old Gil, all that, now that you have the foundation of that. When I was at Liberty University as a GA, I remember we were driving to Summer Strong. And in my head, I thought, it's time for my Instagram handle to be a little bit more professional. And I didn't know I had no idea. And it just came to my head. And I was like, Steel Gill, like steel. We work in a weight room that is full of metal and steel. Steel Gill, perfect. It was the perfect handle. And now that has a dual meaning because now
Right.
actually part of my body is metal and
Hmm.
steel. And that's never going away and that's never going to change. So my best friend who's a graphic designer actually made a logo, Steel Gill, and the last L in steel, is my prosthetic leg. And we made t-shirts out of it and in efforts to fundraise some side money to help offset some hospital bills. And that logo has just blown up and it's been awesome. So it's the handle when it came to me in 2016 or 17. I think it was 2016, just out of the blue on a drive down to Summer Strong, now has so much more depth to it layered in now that it serves so many meetings, and I mean, it's God's work, man. It's pretty cool.
So I'm so glad you said that because that's something that you took the words right out of my mouth. It's amazing how life works and you get put in the exactly where your feet are supposed to be. They are, that
Yeah.
they're where God wants you is exactly where you're going to be, exactly what's meant to happen. And it's amazing that we're talking 10 years ago, you know,
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that this kind of process started of where your life was going to be today. And I mean, this even, our little time knowing each other is that you can tell how much stronger of a person it's made you, spiritually, physically, everything. I mean, you can just tell the aura, I guess you could say
I
that's,
appreciate that.
this is definitely changed for the better, I guess you could say. So my second, well, I got a little side part question to this.
Okay, hit me.
How,
Hit
how
me.
is, how is Summer Strong? Like, is that,
It's phenomenal. I think if you want a culture of, like, some meatheads and beer and weightlifting and heavy powerlifting, and you wanna be around some strong dudes and females, and you wanna be around some badass people in our military and, any of our armed forces, it's just a good getaway for me. It's a way for me to connect with people that I'm telling you, the Summer Strong community that has stepped up in helping me with my amputation and everything, like, my journey, phenomenal. And I just saw some of them out at Winter Strong a few weeks ago for the first time, and, like, it was awesome, dude. Like, a connection where you only meet a person once, and then you're bonded for life, you're a fan of them for life, they support you, you support them, and you're in totally different realms. Like, the amount of college, strength coaches I go, I would say 25% at best. But it's just a cool opportunity that's like a backyard hangout. You learn from some pretty cool people. It's genuine, it's authentic. I think they do a good job of trying to create a lineup that touches all bases, whether that's the X's and O's, whether that's strategy, whether that's culture, whether that's life story, and it's just it's different. It is different. And then of course I mean, they feed you every meal. They have the beer games. It's fun, it's cool, it's exciting, and it's just a breath of fresh air for me.
yeah, I've seen a lot from, I think a mutual friend of ours, maybe Jared Myatt goes all the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes, my guy, my
Yeah,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah, he goes a lot too.
Yeah, I
So I
saw
mean,
him last we chatted up last year watching the beer games and, yeah, he's a great one too.
oh yeah, I've always wanted to go. It's just finding the time to kind of get away and make that the thing. I know this year it's in South
It's in the
Carolina,
same
right?
spot, it's at their HQ.
Oh, okay, it's in the same spot every time. Okay, I wasn't sure. It's in South Carolina, so that's awesome. I definitely got to make that my bucket list.
You do. I'd
Yeah.
say everyone's gotta at least go once.
Yeah, I definitely got to. So, right now that we went off the beaten path for a
Yeah,
minute, talking back to the process and the things that you've kind of really the past 8 months to the past year of what you've gone through, your new normal. I mean, obviously it's changed a little bit, I'm sure, but the approach to strength and conditioning, and the coaching part of it, how has that changed, if any? Is it gotten stronger? Has it kind of leveled out? What's going on there in that world?
yeah, it's changed a lot, as you can imagine. I could get so deep and wide at the same time in answering this question, but yes, it's changed. Everything has changed. The way that I ask for help has changed. The people who I ask it from has changed. I've been so lucky and so supported by LSU from our athletic director down. Our athletic director was a huge help to me in the hospital. Now Verge Osbury, he was associate AD at the time, now just our new athletic director. I mean, I can call him anytime. He's been of huge help to me in supporting me either financially or helping coordinate a blood drive with our associate ADs to raise money and offset costs to our admin, giving me like promoting our part-time into a full-time just to help me with every training session in terms of just the weight bearing load of setup and tear down of interns at every session. Like it was it was hard and I'm still learning. It's funny, I was just talking to a girl yesterday about, you know, I just got in the past month probably was just the first time that I can actually take life week to week and not day to day. There's times I wake up in the morning and like I'm at the expense of my leg 100%. And it's every decision I make, like steps are not free, walking is not free, it comes at a cost. So every single move in my day has got to be so calculated because the cost of what happens if I don't take care of myself is exacerbated because it's not only that, oh, I'm hurt or I'm late or I can't be there. It's like I can't walk. Like I'm either on crutches, I'm either on in a wheelchair, or I'm on a little scooter. And there's times like my prosthetic rep is down in New Orleans. There's times where I wake up and I feel great, and then by noon I have blisters, or I'm bleeding, or I got spots that need attention, and I gotta go. I assemble the crew and I'm like, hey, I gotta go. You gotta take beach volleyball. And like they handle beach volleyball, and I drive down to New Orleans, and I spend the afternoon in New Orleans getting fixed up and adjusted, and I come back that night and we reset and go. And that was hard, aside from even the outpatient PT that I have to drive to in Baton Rouge. So it was literally day to day. But the community of help that I had was unmatched, absolutely unmatched. It just took a lot out of me emotionally to understand where I'm at, accept where I'm at, make a plan of where I need to go and what needs to happen. Because at this point, it's about tomorrow. Like I know where I'm at today, and I got to do what I got to do today. I put myself in the best spot tomorrow to show up again. And it's assembling the crew, communicating and over communicating. And then in program, it's really just like ridding the fluff, like simplifying what can be simplified. And then asking the athletes, honestly, to step up. Like, I need you from an accountability standpoint, from helping set up or take down. And they've been great. They have been absolutely great. And it has made me, my word of the year is formidable. And I say that because it's made me, in my opinion, or what I'm trying to be, is more formidable yet vulnerable, more empathetic but yet still demanding. And people are like, "Oh, whenever they complain, are you just like, at least you have a foot?" And I'm like,
No.
me now, I'll make sarcastic comments, but at
Right.
the end of the day, I've never used that against them. I've never guilt tripped them. There probably will be a time where I take my leg off and throw it at somebody. That's probably gonna happen. But yeah, it's made me just realize support and people, and the support of the people has gone unmatched. And then refining my systems to make this operational, regardless of whether I'm there or not, has been a huge challenge. But it's been fun to I had no other choice but to kind of let go, and trust that the culture that I've created can see itself through in times where I'm not there.
Yeah, and that's I don't wanna call it this, but I guess it's the only way to really put it. It's almost a re-energizer in the sense, I guess you could say, that I gotta figure this thing out in a new way and how I'm still going to keep that level of success as high as possible,
Oh
right?
yeah.
I'm sure I know this happens to me all the time. Like, I see a kid do something how I wouldn't have done it, but it makes more sense because it makes sense in their mind. And I'm
Yeah.
sure some of that's happened. The way you do movements, how you do things, and
Oh man.
whether it comes to setting up or an actual movement of a auxiliary lift or compound lift or whatever it may be. But I'm sure some of that's happened too.
Oh yeah, demonstrating and everything. If I have interns, again, this is part of like preparing. I can't really demo things, so now I have to take more time before lifts to go over and make sure things are done perfect. Like I am super OCD about that stuff. Like if you're gonna demo to the athletes, you got to know what the heck you're doing. You got to make sure you get it right on the first try. I don't want any mess ups. I don't want you to look bad, and I don't want our athletes thinking that that's how this is supposed to look. So I am hard on people who help me because I need them to get this right. And if I don't have interns, then a vet has got to step up, and
Right.
then if it's a new exercise that I've incorporated into the program that we've not done yet, that has been really challenging. But you know what? It's made me damn good at like verbal cues. I'll tell you that.
Then that's such a huge thing, I think that's somewhere where a lot of people struggle, including myself, is kind of the same verbal cues and changing them into something that's gonna make sense to the athlete that's gonna help you as well, and I think that's where a lot of us struggle, so I think that's a huge step in, where the hand you've kind of been dealt, right?
Yeah. And
That's awesome.
I'll do it. I've been coaching them around from crutches and sometimes nothing. I'm just hopping around.
Hopping around.
Yes, and I'm in there with them, and I tell them I'll give them everything. I'll give you everything I got every day. And there's been times where I have been on one leg and I've been so medicated, but I will give you everything I got, and I have helped to do it. And if I'm going to sit here and I'm going to give you everything, I expect that the same. And there's been times where we've got caught doing some bad things, and I have absolutely gone off and used that to my advantage and said like, I'm out here coaching with one goddamn leg, and you can't respect that and you can't do that. This is not how it's going to work. And I'm being vague on purpose because I'm not going to go into detail about, things that have happened and conversations that were said. But there's been times where, yeah, I've had to tell them like, I'm giving you everything and I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted. And this is how you pay me back. This is how you pay your program back. You know, reality check. They're still
Th
teenagers. Like they need to learn. I don't expect them to get it right every time, but it's a great reality check.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I was literally talking about this morning with someone, just about intent of an athlete, how it sometimes it kind of strays off the path and the effort, but ultimately, I think in our profession we get caught where sometimes we want it more than they do at moments, and it
Oh
can't
yeah.
work that way, or you're destined for failure. And I think that's an example of it, is that sometimes you want it more than they do. You kind of got to give them that reality check and that kind of understand why you're here, understand why you came here, understand why you're at LSU, understand why you do the sports you do, that don't forget you loved it at one point. It's not just a job, because we all know the higher you get, it becomes more that job, but you still love it, and you do it with intent, you do it with effort, and you make sure that, you're giving everything you got, because, hey, it could be a whole hell of a lot worse than what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's a great point, and that's really just the tip of the iceberg, like, yeah, we want it more than they do, and sometimes, you need a reality check. That happens at a level as elite as this, but I think the biggest thing that I tell them, like, I don't have to coach or should not have to coach effort. That's something you should walk in the door with, is your best intent, your best energy, and your best effort. I should be able to coach technique and X's and O's and have conversations about this. I can't do everything. I can't coach that, and I shouldn't have to. That's why you're at LSU. I shouldn't. You should show up. That is the expectation, and that is something the team sets.
Yep.
I think that's what brings out the passion in me, is because yes, I want it, but also they're starting to drift away from their mission statement, and it's my job just to bring them back to reality.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of being a strength coach, is that that is our job. Sometimes
Yeah.
we're that the bridge of the gap between athlete and coach, between making it make sense as far as being a outsider looking in. Is kind of the way I tell our teams that I'm not necessarily hands on with coaching, is that, guys, I'm an outsider looking in,
Oh,
and I'm just telling you how it is, and I'm always going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to be honest with you. And if you don't like it, that means it's meaningful to you.
yeah. I
So
love that. I love
yeah,
that. I'm that way too. I'm blunt with them. I'm gonna tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, and I'm gonna do it in a way that loves them and holds them accountability or holds them accountable. Accountability is the highest form of love. If I'm gonna let you slip away from a culture that you set, then I'm failing you. And it's my job to do that. And I don't care if kids like me in the moment. It's not about that.
yeah,
It's about making sure that when they leave here, that they understand what life is about, and that we're equipping them with tools beyond the weight room to handle adversity and handle maybe your new boss. Your new boss is mean or rude or you don't get along. Like, you have to understand how to communicate. You have to understand how to push through extreme levels of discomfort, and you have to understand the level of discipline that's needed to be successful, whether you feel like it or not.
yeah. So we're 22 minutes into this, and for our listeners, if you can't tell already, coach is tough as nails here. At one point in your career, you got called, your former boss at Liberty called you the pillar of toughness. All right. Hey, I did my research, right? Called you a pillar of toughness. So, you know, has that taught you something about yourself, as far as, obviously your life experiences, and, we kind of touched on it just now, but, kind of giving that advice, that like something, I guess it makes me think of this. When I was in college, our strength coach used to say, tough times don't last, tough people do. And that's
Yeah.
kind of I guess the kids get tired of it, but that's my little cliche line, that like, we all go through tough situations. And when you walk in the room, you put your blinders on and you're just looking at the finish line, and we need to make sure we get there. Has that kind of, and you might not even remember that. I mean, I don't know. I did
I
my,
don't. Honestly, I
you
don't.
don't really? So look, see, you're looking at me like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but I did some research and kind of found a few quotes, and, but I think it perfectly described you and those that are listening. Like I said, you've listened to 20 minutes, and here we are. You can tell how passionate and how tough Coach is.
A pillar of toughness. That's who said that? Was it Shelton? Or
Yeah,
was it? It
I'm
was?
pretty sure. Yeah.
Um, He's the best. I will say this, I've been against odds my entire life, and after my most recent one, I understand that my situation is not changing, and I have been kind of addicted to defying all odds more than ever. Like, that's what motivates me. Like I told you in the beginning, I was an undersized kid. I lucked out and got recruited by LSU, and okay, now I just want to be this small kid and prove myself. And I just had injury after injury after injury, and since 2010, there has not been an 18-month period where I've not had a surgery. I've had 7 knee surgeries, a hip surgery, and now I've had 2 leg surgeries, one being trying to save my leg and then the other being the actual amputation. So the odds have always been against me, and that doesn't scare me. That doesn't bring me fear at all. I'm not anything but motivated to that because now the odds are against me more than ever. And all I've done is just use training to replace the fear and discipline to replace any doubt. That's it. And that's every day. I think, God doesn't waste pain, but pain can be wasted if you give up. And I think people think bad times, like you said, a bad, or you say a tough time makes tough people. Like, it's just a season of life. It's not forever. And I think if you look at adversity as refinement, then you'll grow through what you go through. You can either get bitter or you can get better. And life rule number 3 is figuring it out. And the minute I remember being on the hospital bed and I wake up from my first surgery and the doctor tells me they tried to save my leg for like 5.5 hours. I wake up, it's almost midnight on July 4th. And he says, it didn't take, we're going to have to amputate in the morning. And I looked him straight in the eye and I said, okay, because like, what's next?
Yeah.
What's the next step? Let's go. I'll take it. I'll process it. I need to know what's next. Next is amputation. Okay, what comes after the amputation? What do I need to do? What's my next step? I think a lot of people can get caught in a valley of bitterness and why poor, pitiful me and depression. But I think all that happens when you don't accept what is right in front of you. And I think the minute you can fully accept what's right in front of you, now we got to go to work. And I
Right.
think you don't mature by, people just read books and you have all this knowledge, but you don't mature by knowing more. You mature in life through the adversity when you actually walk through that. And like I said, grow through what you go through. And for me, like, especially now, if I give up, I have no quality of life. It's as simple as that. Like, that's what I start with. If I give up, what emotionally, like what my soul needs, what my head needs, what my heart needs, what my body needs, if I give up or I give in, then I have no quality of life. Like this, I live in a world now that's not built for me to succeed in,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's like you said, there's only two strength coaches in the whole country that
in the whole
are
country.
amputees. Yeah. I mean,
And you
it's
want to know something more cliche than that? My last name is Guillory, right? They call me Gil. You want to know what his last name is?
what?
Gil. You can't
No
make it up.
way.
You cannot make it up. So
That's
what are the odds? It's crazy
yeah.
stuff. I just got chills
But
again.
no, I mean, but like back to what we said, like it's so crazy that little did you know 10 years ago this process started for you. I mean,
It
you
did.
you
And
you
and I
take
think
as
all
simple
of
as that Instagram
yes.
name.
And I wondered my entire career, I'm like, "Man, all I wanna do is be great." And, like, I was never given a full opportunity. My body, when I say never given, my body never gave me a chance to do that. And mind you, we didn't have all the access to all the tools we have now, financially or just modalities that we have. And then I get out and I continue to just have random hip issues and knee issues. I freaking tore my meniscus again on Thursday. Like, it's just nonstop, but it's just another day in the life. Like, how are you gonna get over it? I've been doing this for over a decade. It doesn't phase me anymore, and I think all of those surgeries coming back again and again and again and again, to me, this is just another surgery. Like,
Yeah, it's another step in the process. I mean,
it
it's
is.
another
And now you know, I can look at this again as like the end of fate, or I can look at it as so many opportunities could come of this.
yeah.
One's a glass half empty, one's a glass half full.
I mean, look at what you're doing outside of this. You know, the Paralympian stuff that you're doing to get to that
Trying.
point of just inspiring others. That's when you look at that, the mission is so much bigger, I think. Now,
Oh, for sure.
the mission obviously is, we do our job, we do it to our highest ability. We make sure LSU is taken care of, beach volleyball, gymnastics, they're in a good spot. We make sure we do our best, but that mission's got so much greater for not just our world of strength and conditioning. I saw your story post today, those young boys and girls. I mean,
Mm,
such a
crazy.
yeah, it's just such an inspiration though, that they see you, that again in their eyes it's she's at the top, I know you're fighting every day to get better, but she's at the top. She's where I could be one day.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is just golly. Like you said, it gives you chills. Like I got chills, like
Yeah.
just thinking about it. It's
Yeah.
crazy to see the process and see in such a short time where you've taken this adversity, I guess you could call it.
And to me, it's just I can use it as an advantage.
Yeah.
I know all this can be like super cheesy to some people, but man, it's brought a new light and a passion and a pull in my life that I can't make up. And I want to do something, two things that I'm really big on, and I tell every recruit that comes to the door. One of the or two grow you as people is impact and influence. And the way that I'm gonna do that is invest in you. So those are my three eyes, if you will. And I want to do things now because it matters, not because it's going to get me noticed. And back to the Instagram thing, like I understand that's a platform and my platform has widened and I love that, but I want to do it to where I can make an impact and be an inspiration to somebody, and I don't need people to tell me that. I want to do it because it matters and because it's
Yeah,
going to
and
make a difference in someone's life.
do it your way, not just because I guess it's the way,
Yeah.
but doing it your way in the most of your ability of that inspiration part. And I mean, I love that. I really do. It's just so big in this world where I think we do get lost in the shuffle sometimes of some of the stuff that goes on and all that. So
Absolutely.
talking about some of that, let's talk some meat and potatoes on some actual some weight room stuff, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about Olympic lifting, and you're in two really, polar opposite sports, maybe I guess you could call it, beach volleyball and gymnastics are totally in two different worlds, in my eyes, in a lot of people's eyes. But what's your thoughts on Olympic lifts when it comes to each of those sports?
Yeah. I personally am a huge fan of Olympic lifts. I I think they're so fun. They're clean is like the funnest thing to me. That's my go-to exercise. And it's really hurt me personally because I don't know if I'll ever be able to clean the same again. But aside from me and my programming, do I use them with beach? Absolutely. We pretty much do some clean variation all year round. With gymnastics, I don't. I would love to. In terms of like with the barbell, I would love to, but our wrist extension is so terrible and we have so many wrist fractures and bone spurs just from impact on that, because that's the upper body ankle, if you will. And when they're hitting the beam and they're hitting the vaults and time again, it's a brutal pounding on the wrist. Not even to mention the lack of lat mobility that requires them to catch. So I will do split jerk variations with them. I think it gives us the best of both worlds in terms of triple extension on the back leg and stride, having to stabilize in a hip extended position, and it stresses the Achilles in a way that I think is valuable. So my go-to for gymnastics would not be any type of clean or snatch, but it would be like kind of like a landmine or what's the attachment? I forget the handles where we split jerk in a neutral grip right now, but it's
I
okay.
actually saw the one for the first time in my career. I went and visited Chris Martin over there with
Yeah, let's
baseball,
go.
and I
Oh, he's
can't
the best.
Viking press. Is that what it's called?
It might be
I forget what it's
Viking
called.
bar, Viking press bar.
They look awesome.
We just got them this year and they've been a huge addition for us. But I've also, like I said, I'll clean beach all year round in some capacity or just about all year round. I do think it's valuable because especially in beach, like it forces you to also accept force rapidly, like it forces you to create the stability rapidly. And for them, like they lose the braking ability because of the surface they play on
Right,
because it is given.
right.
So it's super. I'm filling a gap that they're not getting because the sand, they lose a lot of stiffness in the stand. So if I can help kind of create the ability for them to break and accept the force a little more rapidly, I think that's valuable. Also think, we talk about the fastest people in the world can contract and relax just as fast. So I think the clean in general also has this contract, relax, contract kind of wave method to it, where you concentrically contract and then your muscles are relaxed and they contract again to be able to brace. If we're talking about, clean and snatch. So I think when you're looking at, if you want to get nerdy for a second, when you're looking at concentric rated force development and then you're looking at eccentric rated force development, I think to materialize that, like that's what we get in the catch of that alongside for the normal triple extension. It's a huge bang for our buck. And you have your one-offs that have very limited mobility and we may stick to high pulls or jump shrugs or trap bar jumps or something like that. But yeah, we'll clean, I'll landmine split jerk them too. Last year at Summer Strong, he has a thing called landmine U, Alex Canellis. He does a lot of variations with a landmine in emphasizing loading all planes of motion very rhythmically. So I've started to add some of that into our secondary blocks with gymnastics and beach as variations that will help us really create a more robust triple extension in different planes of motion. So I really kind of utilize and love some of his stuff. So I'm for it. I think everything has a time and a place. Do I think everybody's good at it? Do we spend a ton of time developing it? Not really, but we'll test it. It's one of our major KPIs, especially coming out of the fall for beach volleyball.
Yeah, that's right up my alley because I tell our kids all the time, we're not Olympic lifters, but we Olympic lift and we're going to
Yeah.
spend time on it and we're going to, we'll never, like I said, be proficient.
Yeah.
I tell them, this is life, high school is about this big. So I have this amount of time with you to try and get you as proficient as
Yeah.
possible. And so same thing though. I mean, they're just such a valuable thing that, I just don't see how some don't or can't. And to me, one of the biggest call it a cop out. Uh, it's hard to teach. Come on, you can teach. I taught my own 11-year-old kid how to at least do a complex in a day with a PVC pipe, and she was
Yeah.
on a bar by the next day. It's kind of like, don't give me that it's hard to teach. It's you don't know what you don't know, and it's okay to ask someone else, hey, how would I teach this?
Yeah.
And that's what I think some people miss the mark on. But I love that, you clean as much as you do with volleyball, specifically. I understand the gymnastics part that their sport's a little bit different. They kind of
Yeah.
you have to adapt and overcome, and what you got is what you got. Did you, just talking about gymnastics, did you have to learn a lot about gymnastics when you first started working with them? Like what everything was, or was that something that you kind of already had a little bit of knowledge on?
Good question. Again, God's plan, man. I had a cousin. My first cousin was in the Olympics for gymnastics in 2008.
Really? Nice.
So I was around gymnastics, not my entire life, but sporadically because of her. Then whenever I got to University of Illinois, my program oversight was with women's and men's gymnastics there. So that was really the start of my gymnastics training. So by the time I got to LSU, I'd already had roughly 3 years of experience with both men's and women's. So I understood in a much greater detail what their limitations were, what their risk stratification was, what are our high injury joints? What are our movements that take most impact? How do we calculate things like that? What are our KPIs, and really understood how to do a needs analysis from a little bit deeper lens. Fun fact, since I've been at LSU, I've only worked with barefoot minimalistic clothing sports. Super strange. So yeah, both my sports are barefoot. They don't wear a ton of clothes all the time. And
That's funny.
I'm like, dude, you can't just work out in a sports where we got dudes around here, and
Right.
I get it, but all that to say, it's funny because the one works on a surface that gives, and the other works on a surface that one works on a surface that gives back, one works on a surface that gives in. So our training adaptations need to be completely different. So it's been fun to see that exist on opposite ends of the spectrum, and then really compare our force plate data. And it's been fun to kind of see the differences in our ability to brake, to change direction, our RSIs, our total jump heights, things like that, where it's just you're looking at output and strategy metrics, and they're totally different. I love training them both. I think they're both highly agile. So agile in different ways, meaning you need a ton of kinesthetic aerial awareness in gymnastics. They're some of the most freak athletes I've ever seen in terms of body awareness. They can turn and make decisions in midair about where they want their body to go, and adapt it. If they're over rotating, they can feel it. Like, it's just this highest amount of kinesthetic awareness at such a high speed. The problem with that is they've been doing that and only that since they were 4 years old. So they're also master movement compensators. And then you look at beach volleyball, and they're super agile, and they can move vertically and horizontally very, very well. They're hella conditioned because we have to do that for long durations of time, again and again and again, in temperatures of over 100 degrees. So it's been fun to really contrast and compare the two, but they're both exciting and fun to watch in completely different ways.
So I'm glad you brought up RSI. I was going to ask you about, some of the ankle elasticity in those gymnasts. I mean, that's
They're
the first
long.
time. Yeah. I mean, that's, the first time I ever went to a gymnastics event or meet, I guess you call it,
Yeah.
was at LSU. And there's stuff that, like the quad muscle. I was telling, this is back when my youngest did gymnastics, or my oldest did gymnastics. And it was like, it's amazing to me to see that, I guess, the body development is of different muscle for different athlete. You don't see that on a football player all the time, or you don't see that on a baseball player. You don't see it on, different athletes. And it's amazing because of how much their lower body's in use, and their, everything. I mean, they're bottom up, foot up, like you said, it's
Yeah,
a minimalistic sport.
they have their ballistic sport. They're also a projectile sport. Like, look at it, they're our bodies in the air, they are a projectile, so for us to quantify load, it makes that a little bit hard, but pound for pound, relative raw strength, they're some of the strongest, especially on the female side, some of the strongest athletes there are. The problem is that they're so beat up and they have such bony injuries or ligamentous injuries that prevent them from really hitting, I guess, weightlifting goals to their highest potential because of mobility restrictions at joints that are supposed to move. Ankle stiffness, yes. We got some kids can barely even get to 0, and that's on a good day. Because that's all they do. That's all they do is punch the ground, and the ground gives back, and they punch it again. So a lot of contacts in a day, and the ankle does take a beating. I still have not, I don't think, mastered a plyometric program in terms of just the weightlifting side of things that would complement what they're doing out in gymnastics, just because all they do is jump all the time, and
Yeah, you can't match the pure load of it.
oh man, it doesn't make sense. But I will say it's made me assess, like, I don't really need to make them stronger. I just need to keep their tendons healthy, and I need to make sure that we're responding with a rate of force development that is appropriate for their sport. So it's really just managing the readiness of that through our force plate data. And, we work with a third party company that does a full body human movement screen. And we run a machine learning model that helps us kind of predict and correlate injury predictions or kind of risk stratifications there. So we're trying to do some big things that I don't think research has been done in terms of gymnastics. I've been doing a ton of research over the past 3 years on Achilles and reaching out to a lot of people. And that was really my sole purpose, obviously, before this injury happened. But I've learned a lot about the Achilles injury mechanism and fatigue and what really in terms of force weight metrics. And I'm praying that we're on to something here. And it's impossible to keep every kid healthy, but if I can give the coach some availability, at least for a person to participate in at least one event in a meet, I think what we're doing fairly well. Those kids take a beating, man. And today, like, I just got done with them, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're
it's
out that season for sure.
you always hear that gymnast and cheer and all that, how much their bodies take a beating, and unless you really know, you don't know. You just like our profession, the outside looking in is one way, but unless you really know, you don't know that they go through it. I mean, they're constantly. Our head football coach says this here all the time. You'll never feel as good as you do day one.
No, ever,
And that's
ever. No, you
and
want to
that's
feel great, you gotta quit the sport. But you look at it like, you look at, okay, I'm sprinting, I may be able to produce, 9 to 10 times my body weight in force, horizontally. You look at gymnastics and you're in the air flipping on a wildest routine ever, and you have to land this and stick this and consistently accept anywhere from 16 to 20 times your body weight to break and control that and to repeat that. So I really don't work a ton on output. I work a ton on input and our ability to perceive somatically and make sure our tendons are at a response rate that can handle not only a stick, but on a floor that is going to give back to you. So you have to understand your tendon response has got to be quicker because you're going to land and recoil. So that Achilles is really getting rapidly stretched from both ends consistently. How do you not expect them to be stiff over time?
right. Well, you got me convinced. I mean, they got to be some of the best female athletes out there.
Oh, dude,
I mean, to be able to do all that, like,
hands on hips, they jump higher than our beach volleyball team does with arms. Like, it's
that's
crazy.
amazing.
It's crazy.
That's amazing to me. Which doesn't a sport I think of when it comes to higher vertical jumps, outside of volleyball that does it all the time is soccer. The
Yeah.
soccer athletes to me get really, really high up there because of, especially in a header. I mean, just how to see, especially those professional ones. But, you don't necessarily, the first thought in your mind isn't a gymnast having a high vertical, even though that's all they do. They're jumping
Yeah.
constantly, but it's not the first thought in your mind. And it's just, I don't know, it's opened me up to a new light of, if you could get these gymnasts in another athletic, what do they turn into,
Oh,
like
man.
post gym life,
And they're workhorses, I'll tell you that. But man, they're some of the most kinesthetically aware humans on the planet
Yeah, that's
outside of our
amazing.
military,
Yeah. So when it comes to, we talk about these athletes, we talk about being in the weight room and how we do things, when it comes to building that relationship, obviously not all the time, we talked about this, is every athlete you encounter, every person you encounter going to be your number one fan, but those effective relationships, how do you build those both with, you work with female sports, but with a male counterpart in this profession that is male dominated.
Yeah. I think some of the best things that I pull from in my memory bank is training male teams as a female. And I started with an internship with men's basketball. And that was, I have dudes just like I'm looking up at like this, and they're tapping me on the top of the head, and saying, "Yes, ma'am." And it was a great time in my life that I think I realized, like, holy smokes, if I want to do this, I gotta be able to demand a presence that will be respected and listened to and bought in from anywhere from a 17-year-old female to a 22-year-old male. And part of that is looking respectable, right? Like always dressing for the job you want, not the job you have. I think if you look like trash and you look sloppy, automatically you're not going to pass the eye test. I think the second part of that is they're humans too, like they want to be heard. So whether it's a male person that I'm working alongside with or as my boss, or if they're an athlete, like listen more than you talk, and ask before you judge, and understand before you can apply your own thoughts to a situation. And I try and always give the athlete or whoever I'm talking to the benefit of the doubt. And what I've learned a lot from is training with them. Like, training with male counterparts has been some of the funnest lifts of my life. And to this day, like, I see our guys train out here, like, I'll try and make time to go train with them. My actual training partner right now for the Paralympics is male, and he's awesome. Um, and I think you can learn a lot. Do I expect to lift as much as you do? No, but it'll tell you a lot about someone. It's a bonding experience that you'll never lose. And it's just where you break bread, dude. And if you're in
Yeah.
this profession, I think it's part of it. And when you lean into someone, like, it's just another way to be kind, to be collaborative, to be supportive. Like, I think egos can get in the way so easily, and if I have my phone down, I'm leaning into what you're saying, and I want to make you feel heard, but I also want to be kind to you because I don't know what you're going through. I also want to teach you that this is a team effort. So if it's an athlete, like, it's not a dictatorship. I want you to have a say so. I want your input, but this is what I do, and I feel like I have the knowledge to potentially give us the best outcome or solution for said problem. But then I also want them to know that I support them. Again, whether that's a male athlete or whether that's someone that I work with. I think it's all in kind of your body language and your ability to lean in, and your ability to be kind, and no matter what, have a mutual respect for that person, because we're all humans, and you want to trust that we're just trying to do our best.
Yeah. And I think that's, what you said and what you touched on as far as like training and kind of getting in the weight
And
room and
training with
working
them
out.
is so
Yeah.
fun.
Well, like, those
So
are some
fun.
of my fondest memories is the people that I've trained with in the past and I'm in there with, and you're going through the same thing and it's a tough day and you really don't want to be there. But some of the most meaningful conversations in life come out of
Mhm.
those training times. And, it's not even, I remember having memberships to like Anytime Fitness and places like that when I was in high school. And there's stuff that I remember people telling me, older guys telling me about certain lifts and things that to this day I think about, like,
Mhm.
something as simple as like a cable machine on a tricep extension, and where we're really putting our hands and wrist and how we're, keeping them inward or pushing them outward and how it hits the tricep head. And, just stuff like
Yeah.
that, it's crazy how much you intake, not even trying to intake everything, because it's so meaningful in those moments when you're at your, I don't want to say most vulnerable, but you are. I mean, when you're tired and you're working out, you're just at a vulnerable moment that it means that much more.
Yeah.
And
And
I
you
think that's
you just
great.
where your feet are, and you lean into that moment, and you try and
Yeah.
have authentic conversations with them, because, I've tried to there's been people along my journey that, like, I don't really care for, and then we wind up lifting next to each other, and I learned so much about them, or, like, lifting with them, either formally or informally, and you open up, and it's a bond, and it's a way to start conversation, and you start learning a lot about them, and before you know it, like, you guys are really building friendship there. And, not that I'm not afraid to make enemies, or I don't necessarily need to be liked, but I think I wanna do my best to respect every person that walks through the door, regardless of whether that's a custodial staff, or whether that's our AD, or an athlete that I oversee, or an athlete I've never met. And I think that's the way you should just treat people. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in that, but the servant leadership part of things is just
Yeah.
like I'm not going to ask anyone to do anything, whether it's athlete, coworker, anything like that I haven't done before.
Yep.
I'm just a big believer in if I got to go clean out the toilets today, well, guess what? I got to clean out the toilets. If I got to take out the
Yep.
trash, I got to take out the trash. If I got to go, walk the dog, babysit a kid, whatever it is, like I'm
Yeah.
going to do it, and I'm not going to ask you to do it if I haven't done it before.
And to that point, it's been super hard. Like one life lesson that's been very hard for me to accept is that right there. Because I've always told the athletes, I will never give you anything I can't do, and I'll never give you anything I haven't done before. And now I'm at a point where like I can't do that. And if it's
Yeah.
something new's in the program, I've never done it before and I can't do it. Or at least do it properly to a point where I understand what it feels like because I don't have a leg. Like
Yeah.
that's been hard for me to swallow. And I will say I've had a few breakdowns since then, and like that's been more than half of my breakdowns. It's just coming to terms with that, coming to terms with that and the task that I've had to convince my mind to understand like how does losing half of my leg, but finding my strength in that evolve. Like what making that make sense in my head, like
Yeah.
losing
And I
my
think
leg,
you're
but finding my strength is crazy.
And I think it's still that's the next chapter. That's the next chapter of the journey. I think is where you're kind of at. Do you ever not taking away from what we're currently talking about, but you love LSU. I know you played there. You've been there. You've had your other stops, but you're back. Do you see getting to the point that you're strength and conditioning for amputees?
Maybe
I
there's
mean, you
some
never know. Yeah, I mean, I just
look, I don't right now. I told you I'm taking life a week at a time,
yeah.
but I will say there are some things in the works and there's conversations happening and there's opportunities there. And I don't say that because I want anyone to think that I'm not happy at LSU or looking to
Oh,
leave LSU. I think that's home here. They've been so good to me, especially after this. I've had no reason to leave before, and I definitely have no reason to leave now, unless they don't want me. But in the future, absolutely, there's
yeah.
some good
I'm
conversations
talking a
happening.
few
Yeah,
years down the road here.
yeah,
I'm not, by no means
yeah,
right now, but I'm talking like eventually the higher calling.
yeah.
This is where I've gotten to the point that I can now take this on. So just as a little side question, I was just curious, it makes me think and
I
um
asked, my first prosthetic rep when he came in and I just got my weightlifting foot. When we came in on the fourth place and we're deadlifting, I'm looking at center pressure and where it is through the movement. Am I getting extension? Am I truly bilateral in my weight distribution? And I asked him, I was like, "Hey, can we manipulate the tension on this thing to where my ground reaction forces can match what my ankle is giving on the right side?" And he was like, "No one has ever asked me that before." And he was like, "I'm sorry to say no, but that's such a good question." So in my mind, I'm like, "Man, down the road, could I potentially be a part of an engineering prosthetic engineering company or project that would be able to manipulate ankle stiffness as like a false Achilles tendon that would give back for like just like true robotic legs, that would give
yeah.
you the ability to actively push into the ground based on a rate that is matched by the other limb. So I don't know. That's one of the projects.
Yeah, no, that's I mean, how amazing would that be? You think
Yeah,
about it and
dude.
it's like, man, how amazing would that turn out and be and just life-changing.
Yeah.
Life-changing. So we've talked about strength and conditioning, we've talked about life, we talked about, where you're at. When it comes to this profession, and this is a big question for me because I have a young girl daughter at home who at one point in her life wanted to be a strength coach. You know how it is when you're 11, 12 years old.
Yeah.
One day you want to be a strength coach, the next day you want to do hair. The next day you want to be
Yeah.
the next day you want to be a cashier at Walmart. You just never know where their head's at. But at one point she did. What do you say to those young girls who are interested in this career path?
Man, again, my mind's going a million places, but I would say number one, you got to be a sponge and you got to understand like you can learn from everybody. Again, custodials to athletic directors to people you work alongside with to the athletes you work with every day to other coaches. Be willing to be a sponge and learn from everybody. And the thing about that is your ego's got to go out the door, right? Understand that like you will have to prove yourself. And going back to the male dominating field, like I've been told that I'm a lioness, and I'm like, man, I'm a lioness in a lion's den. Like that's exactly where I'm in. So get your hands dirty, like let go of the differences between you and males or anybody else, like that's what makes people unique. Train with people, like that's gonna make you so much better at your craft, like getting your hands dirty and actually training with whoever whenever you can. Let that kind of be your workshop and your table. Like I think, yeah, we go to sites and different institutions and visit with other staffs and stuff. And like, yeah, I want to talk shop with them, but I also want to talk shop while we're lifting. Like that is us breaking bread and you're just going to learn a lot more. Your conversations are going to be a lot more authentic. And then fight to earn a spot at a table. And once you get it, you better work your ass off to keep it. And I think you can do that if you're on the right track with truly what your intentions are. And if you're really in this profession to influence people, like I mentioned earlier, it goes beyond the X's and O's. And I tell the recruits as well, like the highest transferable quality you will get in any athlete is confidence that I can give you in the weight room. Yeah, we can look at stimulus and qualities that and metrics that we can track and influence. But I think so many people nowadays are letting technology overpower decisions so much to where we're soft as cotton and weak as water, man.
That is, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you just said that. That is such a, you look at all these analytics and you look at everything else and what it throws out at you and what it says. And
you don't know. The thing is, they're so young, they don't know.
yeah, and we're in a different gap, I think. We're not necessarily the old school strength coach, where it's just meathead. This is how we're going to lift. This is how we're going to do it. And you don't listen to the body. But at the same time, we do have some of that science in us. And these new kids coming out, these new cats, it's all, well, this is what the book says and this is what science says. And you know what? Sometimes screw the book, screw science.
Yep.
You see a kid feeling good one day, you let them go. Or you see, you ride the wave. If they're feeling good, we keep going. If they're feeling bad, we know where we need to be.
Because look, there's so many qualities that influence every system in our body that's operating at the same time. There's no way that we're going to make the correct decision. But you can use your gut, and you can use your experience, and you can use your knowledge to make the best uniform decision you can for that athlete in the moment. And you don't get that without experience. Like I mentioned before, like all these books have knowledge, but get your hands dirty, get in there with people, lift with people, and you got to know how to freaking coach before you ever get your hands on technology. I think that's so ass backwards these days, and it's making our kids soft.
It's people skip the coaching part. They skip learning how to coach.
Dude, our interns, we don't go over a piece of technology until we're at least halfway through the semester.
You got to know how to talk to the kids. I tell mine when they come in, you never pass a kid up without saying something. Yep. Whether it's a critique, whether it's something positive, whether it's a, hey, how you doing, or a fist bump. It don't matter to me. You never pass a kid up in the weight room without saying something to them. Don't just walk around like you.
It's just about connection.
Yeah, learning the floor, learning connection, learning relationships. It'll take you so much farther in life than what you ever expected.
Yeah. And I think to that point, like looking at people in our field that are who you want to emulate, and you move towards those people because they're going to expand your perimeter of possibility. And it's that simple. You want to know how something is done, then you look at who's the best at it and you reach out.
Yep.
And if you can't reach them yet, you reach out to the second best or your third best. And you'll eventually get there and you work your way up. It's going to, like I said, everybody's got something that they can teach you, good or bad. Both are valuable. And yeah, take risks, get your hands dirty, and understand that these kids, yes, we need to coach the hell out of them in technique and critique in terms of actual performance. But you need to know how to coach and build confidence as well.
Yeah, that's 90% of the battle.
Yep.
That remaining 10% is the easy part. That's what we got into it. It's the 90% that's going to try you and then test you day in and day out.
Yep.
So, Coach, I got 3 more questions for you, and these are my favorite questions, okay?
Okay, hit me.
All right. So, these are kind of my off-the-wall random questions. First one, we're getting ready. We're Coach Guillory, I guess, how old are we now? I guess, 15 years ago. We're getting ready for the game. iPod Nano. What's on the
Man, probably Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne? Yes, okay, good. Lil Wayne.
A little Boosie, yeah.
That would have been Carter 2, maybe Carter 3, somewhere right around that time. Yeah. Yep. Great. Both of them are great.
Some stunt like my daddy, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Old stuff, but
I remember when Fireman came out. I thought it was the best song ever.
It was so good.
Fireman, Go DJ. Good. Yeah. The Hot Boys was kind of, I wasn't too young, but I remember being in junior high, Hot Boys, and that was the
Hot
thing.
Boys.
So.
Lil Webby was another one. They were all just the
Savage
mob.
Life 2 album is one of the best albums ever created. I still listen to it to this day, but Savage Life 2 album that was the best. I was a Webby over Boosie guy. I love Boosie, Baton Rouge, but Webby was the dude.
I like the collabs. I like the collabs the best.
So, as you've gotten older, here's my next one for you. As you've gotten older, it doesn't have to be a sports performance book. It can be just a book. What is something book-wise that's kind of, helped you in life?
For sure. really two in probably the past 8 years that I either refer to a lot of people or like I come back to a lot is Atomic Habits and the Let Them Theory.
Okay.
Those are
Yeah.
two go-to for sure.
I'm at the check. I haven't read either of those, but I'm going to check those out. That's always
Game
something I
changers. They've been game
add to
changers.
the bookshelf reading list.
Yeah, you should.
All right. This is the last one, and this one's been, I kind of get into the mind of the strength coach here on the answer of this question.
Okay.
You're on a deserted island, stranded by yourself. You can have one piece of weight equipment, whether it's functional to where you're going to use it for actual lifting or use it for outside of lifting. What's that piece of weight equipment?
Oh my God. Ooh, this is a deep question. Immediately I want to go to kettlebell, but I'm not sold on that. Man, maybe I'm probably gonna have a great answer as soon as we hop off this call. Maybe a center mass bell. That's what's coming to mind. Do you know what a center mass bell is?
What a bonehead move on my part, y'all. I trusted a plug in a new building that I thought was charging my computer the whole time, and it wasn't. So as Coach Guillory was answering my last question, my computer died. We've talked since. I'm going to go ahead and finish out this episode. I did hear her say kettlebell, though, so I'm going to take kettlebell as her answer, and allows me to understand where she's at in her mindset in the weight room. Not only would she use that kettlebell as something to work out with, but I'm sure as a weapon or as a tool to help build things out there on that deserted island. So that being said, guys, y'all can give Coach Guillory a follow on Instagram at still_Gill, Guil for Guillory. Can't tell you how happy we were with this episode. It was fantastic, and it got us so far into the mindset of girls beach volleyball at LSU and gymnastics at LSU. Y'all don't forget to give us a listen on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, and follow us on all social medias.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Moffitt Method Podcast. We hope you found today's discussion enlightening and empowering as you continue your journey in sports and strength and conditioning. Before you go, make sure to follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, where we share more tips, behind-the-scenes content, and updates on upcoming episodes. Just search for Moffitt Method Podcast and hit that follow button. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite listening platform. That way, you'll never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's show, we'd love it if you could leave us a review or share this podcast with a friend. It really helps us out. Thanks for tuning in. And remember, the key to success is just one more workout away. Until next time, stay strong and stay inspired.